Welcome to the CEO Stylist podcast, where two unlikely CEOs come together and rewrite the narrative of what it means to be a CEO stylist. Yovanka, Loria and Kirsten Harris are on a mission, giving stylists permission to join the movement of artists breaking the mould of what is meant to be for the hair industry and creating the life and schedule of their dreams. Fast forward through many failed attempts and lessons learned in the process, it's time to level up the playing field. It's time to call BS on what's been done before. Yovanka and Kirsten are ready to share it all, defying the odds of the industry and teaching you how to do the same.
Well, there you go. Welcome back. We are episode 2 of our beautiful little podcast series called The CEO Stylist.
Because you guys are wanting more, right?
So today's topic, we're talking about how to create a career that's true to you.
And
that's
authentic.
It. So we're going to chat about that today. We're going to unpack it. So where do we start? We've got a little bit to chat about here. You know, we're going to reveal age. We're both 70s children. So I feel like we can be a little bit of an authority in this subject in a sense that we've had various career paths. We've had some life journeys. We certainly don't have all the answers, but we've definitely, I think between the two of us, what we've discovered is that it is possible to recreate
and it's never
yourself,
too late.
And it's never too late. And I wanted to start by saying something that I heard. This is definitely not my original thoughts, but it's something that I heard more recently in a podcast, the difference between passion and a job. So a job is something you work towards, right? We work towards a job. We work for an income. We work for a job. A passion is something you're drawn to. So there's a difference.
Big
and I think
difference.
the sweet spot really is finding what it is that you're passionate about that you can create as a career.
And be rewarded.
And be rewarded. That comes, that comes. I've always said don't chase the money because the money will chase you and eventually.
But I do think the stereotype of, the dumb hairdresser syndrome is a lot of them are passionate.
Yeah.
But a lot of them exit because they do get burnt out. The reward, we both know that it's not a very high paying an award. So it's interesting to circle this, back to what we've been able to create and how we went up against the grain with what we're doing. And you've seen firsthand, there was this one conversation we had, remember when you came in and I showed you our figures and
we've had many conversations.
We've had many.
Let's just, which one are we talking about?
So this is one of the first ones when we were talking about KPIs and hairdressers. And remember, I was like, look at what my girls, is this normal? And you were like, no, I didn't even realize.
It's not normal
It's not normal, no. So I think if we can unpack what it means, where we've come, how far we've come, I think we've both got two different ideas.
So do we start with, because it's always intrigued me, and I guess it's kind of a fully loaded question that I'm about to ask you, but why is there this association that still exists with a hairdresser being undervalued based on education or, I don't know, this so-called status? What is it?
I think honestly it's because most hairdressers, are coming out of high school. They're not even finishing year 11 or year 12, especially I know back in my day, and circling about to what you said, there was always that you can only be successful if you go to university. Little do they know that 4 years, it's a long apprenticeship and you still have to go to TAFE. You still, have to do solid work. There's extra hours. So there's just been that.
The stigma
that comes along with that.
So is that a self-inflicted stigma, do you think? Or do you think that has very much been consumer
I think
driven?
It's been a little bit consumer driven and it's also on the bifold, hairdressers were never taught business.
Right.
In our schooling, in our apprenticeship. They don't teach the business and marketing component.
But yet you're taught to put chemicals on people's hair.
Science. So we're taught science and chemistry.
Yes.
And understanding skin, but not the business that comes with it.
And I'll be honest, I've, heard this 1,000 times over. You guys have, and I say you guys because I'm not a hairdresser, so I can't, and I very much felt left out. It's funny being so involved in a hairdressing salon in a different level, but this language that exists And I'm like, can you just speak English for a moment?
We hear it all the time. The clients are like, I have no idea what you're speaking about.
No idea. You're talking about 1% vols, and I'm thinking that's just chemicals and there's a lot that could go wrong.
Of course.
But yet we circle back to this stigma that exists about career and not being valued in the industry. And we've had offline discussions about this, and I'm very happy to sit and talk about it today. I've just never understood why in today's world this stigma still exists, where
I think it's getting
hairdressers tap out because they're not earning the income to sustain a lifestyle.
And here's the thing. This is how it works in a nutshell. And you've been privy to what, the amount of clients that hairdressers had to do for the amount of hours. And then once you break down the expenses and what's behind it and what's involved, there really isn't a lot at the end of the day for what they're bringing in, for what they're charging to what they're earning.
Yes.
So it is really, really tricky. So, that's where I say, hairdressers are open to doing everything. They're doing multiple things. And this is where it really, comes down to the key points and values that I had to change my mindset, and really what helped unlock, my story, because I was that typical hairdresser, 25 years, working around the clock. I was, desperate to make changes, but I really didn't know where to start. And I remember listening to podcasts, and, I remember thinking something's got to change. And lucky with my extensions, I was able to do that, because the key for what I was doing was really understanding what a niche service was, and really understanding also that when you specialize in something, you get really good at that one thing.
Yeah.
Instead of being an open smorgasbord to everything, and you're servicing everyone. And, I was doing makeup, and I was doing bridal, and I was doing, at the end of the day, you're just chasing your tail and you got nothing to show at the end of the week. It's, it's that classic, hamster wheel where you're just spinning, and that conditioning as well, because guess what? That's all we've ever known.
Yeah. But you weren't doing it for the money though.
This was a passion.
This was a passion.
Yeah,
that you were drawn
Then when you
towards.
look at it and you're like, why am I doing this for? Why am I being so undervalued?
Yeah.
And I also believe why so many working mums end up exiting the industry because of that, because there was just no support. There was no, hairdressers didn't really invest in themselves. They really didn't invest in business. They didn't, we've had that conversation offline as well. Now they're understanding marketing, the marketing funnel, how that works. But I think also, the point of doing this podcast is really, unlocking those barriers, the very same barrier that I had when I started this journey. And I remember also, speaking to my husband, thank God I had that right support, because imagine that I allowed that bubble of fear to keep me where I was. And that's essentially what happens. I think the moment that you take a bet on yourself, and like I said, that's why Vlad is a major part of what I'm doing today. But if, when I came to him, we didn't have money for me to go to Melbourne to take a $2,000 or $3,000 course, and imagine that most people live in fear. And instead of him being fearful and saying, no, babe, we don't have that money, he turned around and said, well, you got nothing to lose.
Yeah.
What do you have to lose? And imagine, and it happens a lot now when I speak to other women, and they're like, let me just check with my husband. Let me check where we're at. We don't have the money. I hear it all the time. And it's like, well, I didn't have the money either. I had to put on our credit card.
Found it.
And that's where I speak about taking a bet on yourself.
Yeah.
And I was in my late 30s. If you don't take the risk, there's no reward.
Did you ever know though back then when you decided to, I don't know how much that course was, but I imagine it was
2,000.
Okay. And that was what, 9 years ago?
9 years ago.
Right. Did you ever imagine 9 years ago that today you would be
Hell no.
sitting here talking about
Hell no. But I tell
career?
you what happened, I think also because most hairdressers, we will go do a little course, pay $300, $600. But I think investing that much, I was already, in deep with investing. I think for me, I had more, like you say, I had something to prove, and I was like, there's no going back. Now I've got more to not lose, but I've got, more to show, because this is more about my kids. Like I kept unpacking the why behind the why behind the why. And I think the more you invest, it's almost like you're not allowing yourself to fail. And even if you did fail, I never saw anything as a failure. I just saw everything as a stepping stone.
Interesting. And then now let's talk about, we've been through COVID, and I feel like the hair industry changed. Well, not just the hair industry, but I can only relate it to that because that's what we're involved in. But it changed in that moment where more people wanted to own their own career path. So then we have this theme that exists now that we've got more salon owners in the industry than we've probably ever had. And I'd say business is really tough right now. How then, coming back to what the theme of our discussion today is, creating that dream career, how do you know that you're in it? Like, how do you really know that you're in it? How do you find it? Because to what I was saying before, a job you work towards, a passion you're drawn to, where's the
middle ground?
Where's the middle ground?
For me, it was more about learning my self-worth. And it was also learning how to set boundaries.
Yeah.
And recreating everything that I've ever known and utilizing in the beginning what I was doing, because I was just really careful and I was honestly really scared. I was operating from that fear mode. I was really scared that someone was, going to have such a bad experience with our extensions that they were going to blast me on Today Tonight or a current affair.
Yeah.
But I didn't
realize. Bad review on Google.
Bad review.
Yeah.
Bad review. But what essentially had happened is that I took control of the type of clients that I wanted to service and the type of clientele and the energy that I wanted to be around, unknowingly realizing that that was the backbone to any business. And it really is essentially a big part of marketing and understanding that marketing funnel that's really transformed.
So that's a pillar that exists for you. That's what you've set that in stone in essence in your business.
Course. And then I began operating in a completely different mindset. The clients began to respect us. They, stopped questioning us. The resistance completely dropped, whereas before there was always that resistance.
Yeah.
They just didn't value because the clients knew.
Yeah.
They were telling you how to do their hair. Whereas with this, you're investing so much training and you're investing so much so you operate on a different level and then you're able to communicate that through your marketing. So there was a shift with that. So it wasn't easy, but I realized my time was my most valuable asset. And then from there, I also realized it wasn't so much about the money, but I knew that I could achieve more in less time. That was the biggest thing. And then I just thought to myself, why am I doing all these things that aren't really fueling my soul? They're not setting my soul on fire. They're not aligned. And it's happened to, now I hear so many, young stylists come to the course and they're like, I love doing this and I love doing that. And then by the end of it, they realize too. And I'm like, we'll speak in a year and see how you feel about it. Because at the end of the day, you can love something, but if you're coming from a business owner's perspective and then you've also got a family, like I said, the why behind the why, you stop making excuses. And I think it also really does come back to understanding your numbers and how many, salons do we speak to when you ask them questions. You have a whole marketing platform questionnaire that helps you assess where they're at. So many don't even know what their baseline should be. They don't even know what their break even should be, or they're operating for, but because so-and-so down the road is, they don't even know what their baseline expenses are.
So you're going to open Pandora's box for me because you know that this is a subject that we've spoken at length about. And maybe it's through my own adversity and my own mistakes that I've made in my business journey about knowing your numbers. And I knew the numbers were ugly.
They weren't adding up.
But the most frustrating thing, and I guess, running a salon business without being able to make an impact on the floor, the thing that I guess I was, and I'm still slightly frustrated by it in a different capacity now, talking to my clients, is that as an industry, as a whole, we need to do better to save the industry from losing really good people that tap out because financially they can't afford, which is so sad. Like, it's one of the very few industries financially they can't, and I'm generalizing here, financially can't afford to stay in doing something that they were passionate about, that they sacrificed a lot because it doesn't feed their family. And I think that's so sad that we've got to that point. And that's really, to me, it's like, what do you put first? I think from a consumer perspective, why is it that we have this perception that a haircut costs this amount, a colour costs this? Because society has determined that. Because to your point, what you were saying before, the salon down the road charges $200 for a full head of foils. And really, they shouldn't be charging less than $400 because of the time, valuing time. But so I kind of feel like I'm going to ramble here because I am so passionate. I've got lots to say on this. But when do we as an industry come together? Because I know they're fear-led decisions that salon owners are making that determines their price. And then the salon down the road opens and then they go and research what their competitors' pricing and then they set their prices based on the buddy down the road. And I'm like, well, where do you all get these prices from? It shouldn't be from any of that.
And that's essentially what I feel like is undervaluing our industry.
So how do we get that message out? Like, how do we lift the bar on this that we're not losing really good people out of the industry because they can't financially afford to stay in it? Like, it's pretty sad to me.
It is sad, but I think it comes down to self-awareness. Once they know, then they can do better. If they're open to it, they do have people that will help them with it. Myself, yourself, we can always lead them. They just got to be open to it. I think if we all stick together as an industry, it will really stop happening.
Yeah.
I remember in the beginning when I had to implement systems and processes and cancellation policies, and it was tough in the beginning. But then that
tough for you or your client?
Tough for both because there was that resistance. But I just stuck with my guns. I wasn't rude. I just really, because you're going to come up, whether it's a friend in your life or whether it's a partner, I feel like once you stand in your power, you're going to get called all sorts of names. And I think they're not used to women being in business. And this is why we go back to that 2%. Of women that only hit a certain amount because we never had a seat at the table.
Yeah.
We never had that business exposure. So I think it's really important, and that's why we're so drawn to what we're doing, because I think it is getting better. You look at all these young ones like Millie Space and all these young ones, even Jay Edwards.
Oh, they're amazing.
And they're amazing.
They are.
They've really...
I think that 30-something generation is the most powerful working generation that we have in our industry.
But
they
let's
do
be real.
Stand in their own.
Not everyone's going to be able to charge $900 for a cut and colour. That's why I feel like with extensions, it doesn't matter where you are, and it's a testament. I built a salon from home and built it into a global brand. And you look at one of our stockists, Emma Sorensen, who's up Port Noarlunga. It really, really doesn't matter where you are, as long as you put in the work and you understand the essential to business and numbers and marketing. It really is what takes you to the next level. You just got to be open to it.
But is it more than that? Like, you can have all that knowledge, but I still feel like what gets you out of bed every day?
Oh, it's the impact behind it. But knowing that knowledge, then you stop that emotional discounting. You stop, like as artists, I hear it all the time with our stockists. I've got one amazing stockist. She's been my friend since trade school. I love her to death. And we always have these conversations because she's like, why do I keep getting, this happening? And I said, because your energy is so strong. You don't realize you're overcompensating and you're putting that energy. You're almost scaring the fear out of these clients, overcompensating. And that's energy that you're putting in and that's what you're receiving in return. It really, once you understand, that's why we speak heavily about mindset. And I think that also comes down to how do you find that career path? What is it? That true, when you really are true to you and you stop doing things that have been put on us by society, by clients, I feel like a lot of men in the industry created this system. I know I was raised in that era where we weren't allowed to do an all-rounder hairdresser. We had to specialize in either cutting or colouring. And even though I specialize in extensions, but we still do it from start to finish. We do the colour, we do the install, we do the styling. So we don't leave that client to double book ourselves like we were. It was a production line. It really was.
Clients don't want that today.
And they don't want that. No, they want that personalised experience. They're happy to pay. They really are happy to pay because you're essentially changing their life. And in return, not only are you changing their life, but you're changing your life. Like, it really is. Like, I speak about it all the time. And, you've seen when stylists come on and they're like, they all put, hair extensions on the back burner. But then, the messages that I get from them after, the way that they see themselves as a stylist, how it's restored their faith and, they've got time now for their family and they're not burnt out. It adds like a multi-layer. Not only that, we speak about it all the time. Our clients have become our biggest brand advocates. Yeah, our biggest brand advocates because it really, really is life-changing.
Well, I guess I can speak from a different perspective when we talk about, finding that dream career. Mine was this internal battle that I had for 14 years being involved in this seemingly cool brand that, when I think about it now, that brand that I essentially retired last year, and it took my husband, I think, to point out, he said, you've probably had more pain than joy. I'm like, what? And so that kind of sat with me for a little bit because I was so resistant. I wanted to move on from it, but I didn't know how. Like, I really didn't know how because it was what I
knew. Emotionally connected
and I
to
thought, to front up and start, I felt like I was starting career again. And my husband said, you're not starting a career again. You're literally pulling together, 35 years of skill set. And I went, but, I'm in digital marketing, mate. Digital marketing didn't exist 35 years ago. But he said, think about all that knowledge. Think about the approach that you have, the consultation approach. And so let's not talk about the do and what I'm doing, but it was the why that I think was the magic for me. And it was having that, removing the doubt and that imposter syndrome that exists with me and my, comparing myself, worst thing that you can do, comparing yourself to other agencies. I'm like, they've gone to university and they have a marketing degree and they've worked in agencies. Who am I? This was all this self-talk that I had. Who am I to hold space in this industry? Big deal that I've had this experience. So what? Like, what's the value of that? But I think my lesson now coming out the other side of that and recreating a career that I literally love, like, to the point where I have the most unsettled sleep. It's one thing you'll learn about Yo and I, we do sleep rate. There's two obsessions that I have outside what I do, health and sleep. I sleep.
Which we don't get much
so
of.
Crazy, but I do rate my sleep every day. I need to get off that. But, it's because I get so wired after being with a client and so
now
many
that
crazy ideas.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
So now looking back, because now you're also understanding you're working with clients that you love and are on the same, your values align. Going back to when you walked into salons where you didn't get to pick the salon owners.
Yeah.
What level of resistance? Because I know what you do behind the scenes. Do you think they really appreciated what you offered? Because do you feel like they looked at you like you're not a hairdresser, you don't know what you're doing, but didn't look at it from a point of view as it takes two very key ingredients to make something work?
Yes.
Do you feel like they didn't really realize like what marketing or what you do behind the scenes?
Well, it was interesting. I had 3 audiences back then, 3 audiences in that I think as owners, business owners and that run teams, like you've got staff, I had staff then, that you do need to be that leader in their eyes. So they were my audience and I had to continue no matter the adversity, no matter the conversations or the shitstorm that existed out there, you needed to be that leader. And we had a team in different states. So I was Melbourne-based primarily then. We had people in different states. So that was my number one audience. My second audience was really the owner of the salon that invested a lot of money back then in these salons. Like for some of them, it was their investment, their super, their retirement, that was their lifeline. And so I had come from another franchise brand in a similar situation where that was really their lifeline. So I took that seriously. But in my mind, I knew that they'd been sold something that, not by me, but, by someone else that really didn't exist. And then, of course, I had the workforce, like the stylist, the artist, the salon manager that were all industry trained. And I felt like I had to also prove myself to them. I can't tell you how many times I had that conversation where they would put a hand in my face saying, you don't understand my world because you're not a hairdresser. And at the beginning I thought, wow, do I need to go and learn a trade? Like, do I need to understand? Thankfully, my husband, wiser, older, said, are you ridiculous? Like, stop even thinking. I'm like, well, maybe I need to understand it from their perspective. He said, have a understanding from a perspective doesn't mean that you have to do it because it requires all sorts to run a business. I don't even know what your question was because, see, I get so passionate about this. Yeah, like I felt like 3 different audiences, constant pushing shit uphill to, I guess, prove, I don't even know what we were proving back then, really to hold it together is all honesty. Like, don't get me wrong, it wasn't all bad. It was a really cool brand. That, I think Blow Dry Bar back then was a brand that grew out of the ground extremely quickly. It was ahead of its time. It didn't have systems and processes. So what you were saying before about as hard as it is, we went to school, we obeyed rules. There were systems and processes in school. You know, corporate world that exists, you have to have rules in place. We have rules throughout life. That really defines the rules of life, doesn't it? We can create our own, but at some point when you work in an environment like that, you do need to have systems and processes. Franchising is no different. And some of them are, I guess I welcomed them because it was a bit of a safeguard, and others were really hard to execute that in that environment. So, yeah, I don't even know what you're asking now. I think I answered it, but like
you did. Now, did you come up with resistance with the salon owners?
But it was more than that. That's
marketing.
what I'm saying. It was more. It was more than just the salon owners.
You had a whole team behind.
It was exhausting.
It's exhausting. But there would have been a lot that going back to how can they make the industry work for them. I think, you know, going back to that system that was created, that conditioning. There wasn't that many left that were doing it purely for the passion. There
wasn't. And that's,
I feel like that as an artist, that whole production line is what it got knocked out of us because the fun out of being an artist.
Do you think that's gone now?
Do you think it's better?
They're claiming their stake as artists that are valued from a consumer?
So much better. I feel like it's
I do feel like it is changing.
I feel like we're still scratching the surface. We still have a lot of work to do. But you can see it now. A lot of salons, you know, stylists are sticking together. They're asking each other for more support. It's a lot more than what we were when we were around. And I think also because we've built this amazing community. And, you know, I cop it all the time. Remember a year ago with COVID when we were absorbing the costs for 2-3 years, I didn't put my prices up. And then we got freight costs and supply went up and I had to put it up 30-40% and look at the backlash that I got and what came out of it. Some people, clients even were like, oh, she's just, you know, putting prices up and ripping people off. And I had stylists message me being frantic, going, I'm losing clients. And I just had to keep reassuring them, you know, I'm fighting for everyone. I'm fighting for the industry. This is not an emotional decision. This is now I have higher ups of accountants and my husband, Vlad, being the CFO. It is numbers. And when they present it to me, there's nothing guilty that I feel about it because I can actually see the percentages and how it works. So on my end, I had to explain to them and they were a little bit, again, operating out of fear, including me in the beginning. I was like, oh my God, we're going to lose so many clients.
What will people think?
What will people think?
Yeah.
But I had to reassure them, you know, look at our stockists in Sydney. I was always too cheap for them. Whereas here, I was too expensive for them. So I was like, I can't win. I really can't win. You just really have to trust that I'm doing the best that I can for our entire industry. And then, you know, they came around and they were like, you're so right. I apologize. Just stick to your guns. You can
stay in your lane, as they say.
You can undercharge, but you're only disservicing yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You're only disservicing yourself because once you understand the numbers, you have to make profit. Otherwise, what's the point of doing what you're doing?
Yeah. Are we running a business or a charity?
100%. And I think that's what, you know, I had to learn when I had people questioning me and my prices. I just got really good at communicating it, whether it was through email marketing and also really having, you know, that conversation and knowing what was what. You don't back down and you don't have to get upset at them. You know, in the beginning, it was a trigger for me until I learned, but then I just had empathy for them because it's like they don't know any better. And at the end of the day, if we're not within their budget, and, you know, I'm more than happy to recommend another stylist or another salon that's better suited to your needs. And that's it. The conversation would end. You know, and remember that one client that was like, oh, you put your prices up, but it's taking you the same amount of time to do it. And it's like, again, it comes down to education and you should be paying me more for something that I have the experience to do rather than someone that's inexperienced that's taking twice as long.
Hold that thought. Say that again because that's really powerful.
It really is. So when they used to question, but it's taking you, You know, it's taking you the same amount of time to do it and you're charging me more for it. And behind that, when you unpack that, it's like, remember that meme that, you know, it may take me 30 minutes to do it, but it's taken me 30 years to learn the trade.
Oh, so true.
So, you know, and you have a look at, you know, let's speak about trades in plumbing or in, you know, electrical. They never question them.
No.
How much something costs, but it's always service industry. And, you know, a lot of the time it would happen that the client that was questioning us is a client that's outside driving, you know, a Mercedes or a, you know. Always. So we've had to really re-educate our girls, and don't take it personal. Just speak your truth, speak up for what you believe in, know your worth and know your value, know your numbers, and you'll never run into that problem again.
So I want to circle back to the root cause issue of why we're losing good people out of the industry. So how do we stop that from happening? Because there is, like, I know I've had lots of conversations over the years with salons that can't find staff. It seems to be still a resounding issue, if not worse now, because it's magnified by COVID, and everyone wants to own their own piece of the puzzle, don't they? They all want to own their own little space. And
we
that's
both
great.
know, look, at the end of the day, I think with what we do is so different, because what I've created and what we've created with the extensions, it's on a whole different ballpark. Yeah. Normal hairdressing, I think what they think is they want to work for themselves. They get into it, but they're not realizing. And I say to my girls, if you guys want to open up your own salon, you're more than welcome. And I think in my head, oh my God, like if I had to do this all over again, like I think they're crazy, because we know better. We know that maybe you can earn a little bit more money on paper, but behind the scenes, what's your thing that you taught me? You're trading time.
Time for money.
Trading time for money. And that's a big thing.
Yes.
You know, that's huge.
Put an hourly rate on what it is that you want to earn. You know, I'm really passionate about that. You know that, because I think that as an industry, we do undervalue that time spent. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's really putting that value on that we can raise the bar.
Of course.
And stop the gap of this, that, you know, we've got that 20-something-year-old, they may see out the end of their apprenticeship. They might not even get to the end of it. And then they realise that they can't afford to stay in it. They need to go and find another job. Not a passion, it's a job.
It's a job.
Just to earn an income that's representative of the life. Life is expensive, particularly in Australia now.
And your time is so much more, you know, like we go back to, you may be earning more, but if you're prepared to give up the, you know, what it takes, as in the sacrifices and all the weekend work, I don't think they realise what's actually involved until they do it. And look, some come around full circle and they're like, oh my God, you're so right. I think it takes a special person, and it really comes down to, I think your success will be measured by how much stress you can take.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. Resilience,
stress.
And I feel like the other key now, it wasn't like that when you started your business. It definitely wasn't like this 14 years ago. Having key stakeholders, like being proud to outsource, not the stuff that you can't do, or you can't, or it might be a case that you can't do it, but don't feel like you need to know everything just because you own the business. Does that make 100%. Sense? Like we don't operate as accountants in our business, because we respect someone that has a qualification in that will take care of that, and that's it. We don't even begin to pretend to know it. Why would you?
And I look back in the beginning when I was wearing multiple hats.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, and it's like spinning the plate, and I had to learn marketing. Never done marketing. I had to learn accounts. And it was a really good lesson for me to learn it, but then pass it on to the right person.
Absolutely.
And I think that's really important as well. I don't know.
So what's your parting message?
My parting message is, hang on, your turn, you go.
You need a moment to think.
I need a moment.
My parting message is it's never too late to recreate a life that you want to live. And that sounds a bit holistic there, but I'm nearly 49, and I feel like I'm just about to start my third serious career path, something that I've done, obviously, but now I might fall into it. And I'm like, I'm just getting started. And you do find that energy. I think the energy is zapped when you're doing something that is so against what you really, like, your passion.
Oh, That's a big.
So it doesn't matter how old you are. I'm like, it's not an age thing. It's like your energy's zapped if it's so resistant and not lining up to your values. So I think it's never too late. But really for me, it's before you jump ship, speak, like talk to people that are trusted. Don't talk necessarily to your mate in the staff room, because how do you value that advice? How do you know what their journey is? Talk to
someone who's actually done something,
had a bit more life experience before you jump ship. I think that we lose too many good people out of the industry for many different reasons. So
I agree. And my biggest takeaway is probably understanding what's your highest value. I think for me, that was the biggest personal development thing that I did in the end that really aligned, because as a working mum, it's that constant mum guilt that you have that nobody prepares you for, right?
No way.
And if I had settled and I had the limiting beliefs and the inner chatter that we have and the outside noise that you can't do it all, that you can't have this, and if I had allowed, to succumb to that without really understanding what makes me happy, what do I love doing, understanding what my highest values were, because at the end of the day, if I'm living other people's value, and that's, it's a cultural thing as well. We're always taught to put, as a working mum, to put everyone first and yourself last. As whereas, understanding that it's okay. It doesn't mean you're selfish. It's understanding what lights up your fire.
Yes.
And then everything
so
from
true.
there, then by the time that you finish your day, guess what? You've got so much to give. You've got so much to give others, your family, your friends, because you're genuinely, this is really essentially the authentic self. And if you can implement that in your workspace, it really, really is a beautiful, magical thing happens. And I think from there, it's that energetic force that keeps creating. It's an abundance mindset. And instead of going backwards in life, all these opportunities just keep presenting themselves.
The universe works in funny ways,
It
isn't
really
it?
does work in funny ways. And, it does take, confronting, your inner things that are holding you back. But I really do believe there's help out there. There's, so much more experience from women like us that have really walked the path, and even girls that are younger than us that have allowed us to, hold their hand through this journey. And we'll can't wait to also have them on as guests so they can share their story.
Well, this has been a great chat today. Have you got anything else? Or are we going to wrap it up?
I think let's wrap it up, and then we'll wrap it up for today, and we look forward to sharing more of our topics that we'll cover in the next few episodes. So if anyone wants to get in touch with us and you want us to share a topic or you have any questions, you can reach out to me at Yovanka Loria, shoot me a DM. And with Kirsten, where can they reach you?
DM on BDB Group_Oz. Thank you for listening. This has been an awesome chat today. We hope that we've really been able to impart some of our knowledge. And, I think before you jump ship, reach out to us for sure. If you're looking for a bit of a reset, if you want, a trusted source just to unleash and have a conversation with, we're up for that, aren't we?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. Thank you so much for listening, and stay tuned for our next episode.